Good morning, CSL. I'll be your guest speaker today. Even Chris Michaels needs a break, y'all. At CSL, we have 7 core values that we're very, very proud to hold near and dear to our hearts. When we ask ourselves what's most important in life, these are the things we came up with. They are love and healing and oneness and abundance and spiritual growth and service and diversity. The 7 things we hold near and dear to our hearts and we believe hold the most value for our community. The highest of those today we're highlighting is oneness. Oneness is our core value of the day. In a world that seems ever more divided, it is a challenge to hold to the concept that we are all one. One life, one people, one presence, one power, one essence, one spirit. One life flows through our blood and our veins. It is evident in the world today that that is not held as a value, and certainly not in Cuba today. We have special music that we are dedicating, so stay tuned if you're online for this issue. In social media this week, I don't know if you saw CSL's presentation, but this is what we wrote in social media. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. It lies within our hearts and cannot be bound by government, religion, or institution. Center for Spiritual Living is an inclusive community of free souls and creative spirits. We believe that every voice should be heard. We stand with the Cuban people as they assert their right to live free of oppression. Oneness is our core value. So a long time ago, I was involved in a heated conversation with a friend, and at one point she looked at me and she says, "You know what your problem is, don't you?" And of course, this was many, many years ago. I don't get into heated debates with other people these days because I'm way too spiritual and very holy. But back then, I was sort of deeply scripted in this and making sure that my voice was heard loud and clear. So when she said, "You know what your problem is, don't you?" I said, "Yes, I do. I know exactly what my problem is, in fact, and I don't need you to tell me what my problem is." This past week, I went to visit a friend who has this big dog named Baxter. She's in Ohio. That's where I was this weekend. And Baxter weighs about 80 pounds, but he's just 9 months old. He's just this little puppy. And so he's this big sort of plopping around dog, and he's slobbering all over me and jumping all over me. And she looks at Baxter, and she says, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She apologizes for it. "I'm so sorry." And I said, "Hey, this does not bother me. No worries. I'm the person that says, I love all dogs, and I like some people." And I mean that because people are a lot, you know. Dogs are easy. They just want to love you. They just want to play. But people, man, they can be a hassle, right? Because they have all these opinions about everything that they always want to share with you. Even when you don't even ask for their opinions, they want to share them. And people have all these judgments about everything and everyone. Oh my God, the judgments, the skinny ones, the fat ones, the black ones, the white ones, the Fox News hounds and the CNN liberals. Everybody's got an opinion these days. And they all have one thing in common. They think their opinion is the one that's right. They think their news source is telling the truth and the other's fake news. I remember back in high school when I was studying American history, and we had this teacher, and she was charting our progress. And she told us that as a nation, we had moved from the agricultural age, where most Americans lived on farms and in rural areas. And then we moved into the industrial age, where people migrated to the cities to work in factories and businesses. And now, she said, though, we are entering in the information age. And that's the future, she said, for all of you kids here in our room, which will live well into the 21st century. She said, this is an exciting new era. Everyone in the information age will have instant access to more information than you could ever imagine. And man, was my high school teacher right. Alexa, add cookies to my shopping list. Siri, I need directions to the restaurant I'm going to have brunch in after church. Today, hundreds, and in the future, thousands of satellites are circling the globe, giving us instant access to the World Wide Web, where more information is available to more people than at any time in human history. Now, the assumption was back then is that when people have access to more information, they'll be smarter. They'll be better informed with the issues and therefore make smarter choices. Oops. That didn't happen. As you know, more information doesn't necessarily convert to greater wisdom, now does it? And so now we're drowning in information, but we are dying of thirst for wisdom. We have well-informed people, we have misinformed people, but there's still too very few of us who are actually wise enough to discern between the two. The good news is, today, we're going to change all that, because today, we're going to leave here wiser than you were when you came in, and wiser at home, too. This much I can promise. You see, I don't have any new information for you. I got no information for you today, but what I do have is wisdom. And wisdom, my friends, is always best delivered in a story. But before I get to the story, I want to ask you to do something for me. I want to ask you to bring to mind the person in your life that you really struggle to get along with. You struggle to get along with. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe you've been struggling to get along with this person your entire life. Think of the person that is the hardest for you to get along with, because in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Okay, here's our story. The story of a trickster god, a joker, is an archetype that's found in every culture around the world. You can think of Kokopelli from the Hopi tribe of indigenous people here in America. Images of him thousands of years old are found on the carvings on the canyon walls all over the Southwest. And these trickster gods, these jokers, were mischievous and deceitful. And so their goal was to always get people in trouble. But of course, there was a purpose and an incentive behind all their troublemaking. Today's story is the story about a West African trickster god named Edshu, who loved to create uncertainty and chaos in humans. So one day, Edshu decides to take a walk, wearing a tall hat that is red on one side and white on the other. And so he walks down the path between these two farmers' fields, looking straight ahead, waving to each one of them to be sure that each one of these farmers saw him. And at the end of the day, when the farmers met on the road to discuss this, one said to the other, "Hey, did you see God walking down the road today? Isn't that amazing? How fortunate we are to have such a personal visit from the divine, from God." And the other farmer says, "Of course I saw God. It was just amazing. I was admiring his red hat." And the other guy says, "Oh, no, you didn't see God. I don't know what you saw, but God was wearing a white hat." He said, "No, God was wearing a red hat. No, God was wearing a white hat." And so they screamed at each other, and they fought like dogs and cats. And just as they were about to kill each other, Edshu reveals himself and the hat trick. Red on one side, white on the other. Now the question is, why does this archetype of a joker god appear in every culture, and what's the moral of the story? It is to remind you that no matter how much you think you know, you still don't know everything. It is to remind you that you only have one piece of the puzzle of truth that has billions of pieces. So regardless of your view on life, it is just one view. There are millions and millions and millions of other perspectives on life that you cannot see. It is to trick us awake and make us all look like fools, because only a fool thinks he's right all the time. I think of this story about Edshu when I see the talking heads on news programs yelling at each other. I think of the God that makes us all look like fools when I hear people say, "Oh, don't watch Fox News, that's all fake. Don't watch CNN, that's liberal media, it's all propaganda, don't bother." And so here we are in the divided states of America, like the two farmers arguing over the color of God's hat, at each other's throats, ready to kill and die for our small, tiny little portion of truth. And it's not just happening in the political realm in our country or around the world. This story has played itself out for centuries in religion, for hundreds of years, between the Arabs and Jews, the Muslims and the Christians, the Hindus and the Buddhists. Self-righteousness, this desperate need to make other people wrong so you can feel right. This is the disease that we face today. And my friends, it is more fatal than a coronavirus and more deadly to our country than any war we've ever been in. Fortunately, thank God, fortunately, we have the cure. We have it right here at CSL. You can find it in our teaching. It's not hard to find. It's in the words of our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, who said this: "An evolved soul judges no one, but realizes that all are on the road of experience seeking the same goal, and that each must ultimately find his home where? In heaven." You see, we all come from the same place, you and I. You know where we come from? Love. And that's where we must all return. And that's true for all of us. The people that you understand and the people that you don't. The people that you agree with and the people that you vehemently disagree with. The Republicans, the Democrats, the Independents, the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims, and everybody else in this world. We are one life, one presence, one power, one people, one love. But we come into life as individuals, traveling our own individual path to enlightenment. And that means that we arrive in different places at different times with different views on life. It's as if we're all going to go to New York. We're all going to decide we're going to go to New York, right? We're going to the same place, but one of you will get on a plane and fly. Someone will get on a bus. Someone will take a train. Someone will get a road trip in their car. One isn't right and the other is wrong. We're all going to get to the same destination. We're just going to take a different route because we each have something different to see on that route. Remember earlier when I asked you to think of the person that you struggle with the most? And remember when I said I would tell you why it's so hard to get along with them? Here's the answer. Here's why. It's probably because of one of two things. You struggle to get along with them because you have unfulfilled expectations of them. They aren't living up to your standards. They don't make the smart choices like you make all the time. They aren't doing what you think is right for them to do. unfulfilled expectations. Or, the other reason they're so hard to get along with is because you really want them to change. And your motivation is so noble. You want them to change for the better. You want them to do better. You want them to be better. And here's a little secret about that. No one changes until they are ready. And you cannot make them be ready, not even if you beg them, not even if you shame them, not even if you try to reason with them with a bag full of your facts. There are only two things that motivate people to change in life. The first one is the easiest way. It is through growth. Something has happened to inspire them to reach for the stars. Maybe they found their way to a place like CSL and people around them who will believe in their highest potentiality, and something in them says, yes, I can do this. I can face my fears. I can make this change. Inspiration is the fuel and the growth to all change. It's the number one reason people change for the good. But the second reason is what motivates most people to change. And when I say most people, over 90%. What motivates most people to change? Pain. Pain. When the choices they have made, either consciously or unconsciously, have brought them so much pain that they can't stand it one more day, that's when they wake up and say, I got to do something about my life. I got to do something about my life. Finally, when they're so miserable in the relationship or not in the relationship, in a job or having body issues, that's when they do something about it. Desperation is the highest motivation for change. It's what gets most of us up and moving out into the world to make change. Until then, they wait until they're at their wits' end, hanging by a thread. And until then, until they're ready to change, here's what I want you to do. Leave them the hell alone. They do not need your advice. They do not want your opinion. And they certainly are not made better by your judgment. I'm going to say this again because it's worth repeating. They're not going to change until they are ready. Not even if you beg them. Not even if you shame them. And you know what? Not even if you pay them. There is a universal truth that we all tend to ignore, and that is that consciousness cannot be dictated or enforced on other people. Everyone has to come to their own realizations on their own path in their own time. And I know you want to make it happen sooner for them. I know you have the noblest of intentions. I know you have really good reasons to want better for them than they're experiencing in their life right now. But sometimes, and this is especially true for people we love, sometimes you may want more for them than they even want for themselves. And isn't that disappointing as hell? Well, it is if you think you're in charge of their lives. Sure. But if you trust a higher power to do that, I can tell you this, you'll be a lot less stressed. This is one of the things that I love so much about our teaching. It's incredibly practical and applicable. One lady told me, you have no idea how much money I spent on therapy that I could have saved by coming here to CSL. I said, I'll look for your check in the collection, lady. Science of Mind is practical and reasonable. And maybe that's why so many people are finding their way to us. In our book of the month, Living the Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes gave us his method for getting along with other people. Listen to what he said. He said, I have a method which will work for you if you let it. Forgive yourself and everyone else for everything that has ever happened. Try to feel that everyone is doing the best he can or the best that she can. I don't know about you, but this is so true for me. I am operating at peak capacity. I really am. I'm doing the best I can with the wisdom that I possess in any given moment. And sometimes I fall short of my true potential, and other times I feel like I reached it. You know, I guess getting along with other people boils down to just loving them anyway, even though they certainly may not make the same choices that you make. Love them enough to leave them alone, free of your judgment, and trust that a power greater than you, a power even greater than you, thank God, is in charge of all of our lives. And so ends the lesson. There's always a time to talk and a time to listen. A time to take action in your life and go for the change that you want. And a time to sit and do nothing, take no action, but listen, sense, feel before you act. Listen, sense, feel, then act. We take this time in our service to listen, to sense, and to feel the presence of the power that's greater than our own lives. We can't see it with our eyes. We can't smell it with our nose. We can't hear it with our ears. But if we close our eyes and go within, it's there waiting.
I breathe out, I breathe in, I am still, I go within. When I quiet my mind, in the stillness I find. Spirit meets me there, Spirit meets me there.
Don't be ashamed if you waited to change anything in your life until the pain became unbearable. Don't beat yourself up for that. It's common to all of us. Sometimes when we've tried everything we thought would work and failed, we find ourselves at the end of our rope. And it's there where we finally surrender. I give up. I can't do this anymore. And that surrender is a wide open door for the divine. A wide open door for love to come in. A wide open door for joy to return to your heart. Because when you reach at the end of your rope for something, to grasp onto something, you will feel that spirit that created you reaching back and holding you in its presence and its love. It will take you by the hand and guide you to the very thing you've fought so hard to get to happen. let go, give up, surrender, reach. There is always a light at the end of the tunnel. There is always a greater experience to have in this life just over the hill. No matter how desperate or hard it may appear to be, I promise you this: the universe is working. The power that created it is at the helm and in charge of the highest good unfolding for you. Let it happen. Let it go. And so it is.
I breathe out, I breathe in, I am still, I go within. When I quiet my mind, in the stillness I find. Spirit meets me there. Spirit meets me there.
We close every Sunday with our affirmation and prayer, and yours is just like mine, and this is something to keep on your dashboard or right on your refrigerator. Will you say it with me? I leave people alone and free from my judgment. We are all doing our best. Let's know this together, that we are created in the image and likeness of God. Created in the image and likeness of wholeness and perfection and pure and perfect love. And we are all, as individuals, making our way into the world with a greater understanding of that truth. Sometimes we bump into each other. Sometimes we hurt each other. Sometimes we get confused and don't know which way to go. But wherever we are on our path, we are headed in the right direction. We don't need anybody else's help, guidance, opinions, or judgments unless we ask for it. And the greater ask is for the Creator. Reveal the path to me, God. Reveal the right and healthy direction for my life. That's the place to ask. So we are surrounded by people that we are challenged to love, just as God has put us here, to love each other, to see each other as we see ourselves. Today we do. We are wiser. We will not be tricked or fooled by appearances. Every single individual on this planet is a perfect expression of God. And now we got it. And so it is. We'll see you again next time here at CSL or on Facebook live stream, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. It's good to be back, CSL. Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and thanks for supporting CSL. If you'd like to know more about us, check us out on our website or social media. Blessings.